everyone. My name is Whitney Mahon, and I'm an account manager here at FMT Consultants. I'm joined by Sue Walker-Johnson, one of our senior GP consultants, and we will be doing the GP year-end close training webinar. Now I'm going to hand it over to Sue, who will be going over our agenda for today. But before I do so, if at any time during the presentation you have a question, feel free to type them into the comment box on the right-hand side. It will be monitored during the entire presentation. Sue?
Hi, I'm Sue Walker-Johnson, as Whitney said. I'm joined here today by Chris Schofield, who will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type it in. Questions that should be answered at the end of this that are directed to everybody, he'll save up and we'll address them then. So let's get started. The objectives of this, or the reason you're all here, is to go through GP's year-end close procedures. We're going to discuss the processes, the results of the close process for inventory, receivables management, payables management, fixed assets, general ledger, and payroll. Prior to starting this, Jake, you should have received an email from us with the month and year-end close manual. It says it's for GP R2. The actual options are virtually the same. It's a different look and feel. They have added some additional options to you, but nothing has been taken away, and the core process has not changed. So that manual will work for you. It just looks a little different. The navigation is just a little different. Our agenda is to prepare for the close, the year-end close for each module. We'll be giving you a little bit of other information along the way, and then again the Q&A at the very end. So before you do a year-end close, you have to prepare for that year-end close. Year-end is a month-end, so you have to close all your modules as you normally would for a month-end close. And you're going to follow your normal processing procedures. The other thing you might want to consider doing is to create a checklist. And I don't know if you guys have used checklists before, but they are helpful and they're reusable. You always want to make a backup, and backup is going to be a common theme throughout this presentation. And the purpose of the backup is so that it's available to restore it. During your, you need to be able to restore it in case something happens. So you can also always, if you need to get back to that information, you can move it to a test environment or your dev environment so you can, again, see the information as it existed at that time. So you're going to be making a backup of your files, and then you're going to close your module. As a special note, it is not a requirement for all your modules to be closed at the same time. For example, you may want to close Receivables Management and Payables Management, but you're not ready to close your General Ledger, and that's okay. You don't have to do them all at once. And other thing that is noteworthy, there is no year-end or month-end to close the sales order processing, the purchase order processing, manufacturing, bank reconciliation, or multi-currency. That doesn't mean you don't want to close them or do your normal processing for them. I mean, you're going to want to do a bank reconciliation, but it's not a formal close procedure. The module closing order. Here, this is a list of all the modules that we're going to be discussing. And you'll note that some have a fiscal year-end close, some have a calendar year-end close, and some have both. Calendar year-end closes just happened. It's December 31st. Fiscal year-end close, your company might have elected a different fiscal year other than calendar. So some modules you only close at your fiscal year-end. Others you do for both. So this lays out A, the order, and B, whether it's a fiscal or a calendar year-end close. The first module we're going to discuss is inventory year-end. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to post all your inventory transactions. This is only, if you remember from the previous slide, a fiscal year-end close for this particular module. This system is in the latest release of Great Plains. It has become more date sensitive, but there are areas of this system that are not date sensitive. So this one is important if you're using the turnover report, that you run this inventory year-end at year-end before you've posted any transactions that impact inventory. So you're going to post all your transactions for the year. You're going to reconcile your inventory quantities. If completing a physical inventory count is part of your year-end close process, you're going to do that. You're going to print any additional reports that you want. The additional reports that we recommend are the stock status report, the historical stock status report, a purchase receipts report, a turnover report, transaction history report, a serial number list, and a lot number list. And then you're going to make a backup and you're going to save it as pre-year end. You're going to run the close year process. You're going to close the fiscal period for the inventory series only, because that's the one you just did. And you're going to make a final backup. So the process to, and this is the same place all the year-end processes are, and I'm going to have to log in because it expired. And if I go to the inventory series, the year-end close process, and you'll notice this looks a little different if you're not on GP13, but the options are still the same. The year-end close process is under routines, and that's where it is for everything. Okay? And it's simply a matter of selecting the appropriate boxes and doing this process, running the process. I'm going to slide this back off. So the effects of doing this close process are it summarizes the current year quantities, costs, and sales information of items you've been keeping summarized sales history. So that's an option when you set up your inventory. So if you said, I'm going to keep summarized history, and it transfers all that information to history. The beginning quantity of each item is updated to be the on-hand quantity at each site. Some reports, like the turnover report, use this beginning quantity field in calculations. The quantity sold field for each item is reset to 0. And then there's optional effects depending upon the options that you selected. It's important to note, until you close inventory year-end, that you not post any manufacturing, receiving, or close any MOs. Okay, that should have been done before you ran it. It's anything that would potentially impact your year-end. Sales order processing of invoices should not be done. Receiving and purchasing, and no inventory transactions. That would have, nothing that impacts the next year should be done until you have closed your inventory. The optional effects, and this is what you saw when I called it that screen, there were some check boxes. So the optional effects or tasks that might be accomplished are purchasing receipt of items that have been completely sold can be removed. Cost change history information can be removed. Discontinued items can be removed that are completely sold can be removed. Again, these are optional. Lot attributes of items that are tracked by lot number and that have been completely sold can be removed. And the standard cost, if you're using a standard cost system, of each item is updated to the current cost for items if you're using the FIFO periodic or LIFO periodic valuation methods. The next module that we're going to discuss, and the next one in sequence, is Receivables Management. All the steps that are listed here apply to both calendar and fiscal year end unless noted otherwise. So again, the first thing you're going to do is post all your transactions for the current year. And this would include transactions out of the sales order processing system. If you don't run inventory, you didn't do it then, so you need to be doing it now. You're going to make a backup of your system. And then you're going to process to close the year. If your fiscal year is calendar, you can process both closes at once. Otherwise, select the appropriate year that you're closing, whether it's fiscal or calendar. You're going to go close the fiscal periods for the sales series. In closing these series off your fiscal calendar is just good accounting control. That way you can't accidentally post back into a period. That way you can't accidentally be posting to a future period. So it's controlling. It's just a good control mechanism to make sure that your general ledger is what you want it to be. Closing the sales tax period for the year, you would do it at this point if you don't run accounts payable, because you only close it once. So you need to make sure before you do the sales tax period close that you have closed both AR and AP, because both can have an impact on that. And then you're going to make a final backup. So the effects of the year-end close, again, the calendar updates, the calendar close updates the customer finance charge summary window, and the fiscal close updates the information displayed in the customer summary window when amounts since last close is selected. It updates the customer finance charge summary window as well. And again, this close process looks like this. Year-end close. So this is where you can select, I want to do fiscal, I want to do all as both, I want to do fiscal, and I want to do calendar. And then you would click process, and that would initiate the process for this close. Payables Management is the next module in the order. All steps, just like accounts receivable, all steps apply to both calendar and fiscal year end unless otherwise noted. If you are running purchasing, make sure you have completed your receiving before you start to close this process. Then you would make a, so that's part of post all transactions. You're going to make a backup. Again, with every module, you're going to see that. Make a backup. Then you're going to close the year. If your fiscal year is calendar, you're going to process both at once, just like we did with accounts receivable. Close the fiscal periods for the purchasing series. Again, it's just good financial accounting controls to keep only the periods that you're actively posting in open. Make a final backup. And then it wouldn't be accounts payable if we didn't have 1099s on here. So we will address those even though it's not technically part of the year-end close process. The effects of the calendar year-end is to transfer the 1099 amounts from year-to-date to last year. Fiscal year-end transfers amounts other than 1099 amounts to last year, and it zeroes the year-to-date amounts. And it just kind of be consistent here. Let me get over there. The purchasing year-end, again, it's under routine. And pick reports, not routine. That's why it's not there. Year-end close, and this looks just like accounts receivable did with the fiscal, and the calendar option. Printing 1099s can be done after Payables year-end has been processed, and probably will be done, as it is unlikely that you're going to be ready, you're going to be reconciled to do 1099s, but your last check would already be issued. There is a reconcile 1099 amounts routine. But let's talk about where the 1099 amounts come from. They come from the vendor cards, and it's a summarized amount by month. You can run the 1099 edit report. You can update the 1099 amounts. So the 1099 amounts can be updated a couple ways. It is from, so if you're not in GP 2013, where you would be updating them from is the customer card summary option. There is also, new to GP 2013, there's edit 1099 transaction information. And from here, you can pick a vendor, and you can actually change a transaction that you didn't say. If halfway through the year, a vendor becomes a 1099 vendor, but you've already issued invoices and payments to them, you can come in here and voucher by voucher, you can say, it's a miscellaneous 1099, it goes to box this, and indicate the 1099 amount on an invoice. There is also available here, new to this version, the GP 2013 version, there's a 1099 address on the vendor card in case 1099s have to go to a specific location. And I also believe that printing the 1096 statements is new to this release. It was not available in the prior releases. Fixed asset is only closed at your fiscal year end, and it's the next module in the list. The big note for fixed assets is it is not date sensitive. So if you want reports that show exactly what your fixed assets look like at your year end, you need to run them before you process year end, and you need to not add any asset cards to your fixed asset system prior to running your year end. Otherwise, they will be on those reports. So the steps for this time, for this system, are post all transactions. Run depreciation on all your assets through the last day of the fiscal year. You might have done this during month-end close, but if something slipped through, it's not going to redepreciate those assets. So it's a good practice to just run it again. Run the GL posting routine. You're going to print your year-end reports. You need to ensure that your fixed asset calendar is built for the next year. If we did your fixed asset implementation, we build that calendar out far enough that it's not an issue, but it's always a good idea to check, verify that your quarters are set up for all fiscal years. Again, when it does the setup of your fixed asset module, your calendars are set. You're going to make a backup, and you're going to save it as pre-year end. And the pre-year end backup, again, for this module, especially because it's not date sensitive, make sure you save this one in case you need to get back to it for auditors. You can restore it into a test environment and get to these reports. You're going to perform the year-end close, and you're going to make a final backup. The effects of the fixed asset close on fixed assets for people that use this module has a couple windows. There's the asset window, the book window, and the general window. So on the general window, the year-to-date maintenance amount is set to 0, and the quantity of the asset item quantity is copied to the begin quantity field. On the asset book window, year-to-date depreciation amount is set to 0. Cost basis is copied to begin year cost. Year-to-date depreciation is copied to begin reserve. And salvage is copied to begin salvage. So it's just resetting everything. And the fixed asset close window does look different than the other close windows. You can process year-end for up to 3 books at once. And you simply click on them and click Insert. And then you would click Continue. And that's what starts your fixed asset close process. The next module is General Ledger. In General Ledger, it's only closed at your fiscal year end. You can only post back 1 historical year. However, in GP 2000 R2, we can reopen historical years. So that is a new feature. Not that I recommend, not that that's your goal, but it is at least available. All users must be out of the Great Plains system while this year-end is processing. So your steps in a perfect world are to post your final entries. And until you do this, and another thing to note, until you close this year-end, your balance sheet is not going to look correct because none of the beginning balances have been brought forward. So you're going to post your final adjusting entries in General Ledger. You're going to use a smart list to verify the posting type of your accounts. And I don't think we can stress enough how important that is. You're going to make a backup to verify you can recover from it and verify that you can recover from it. You're going to print a detailed trial balance. This is huge. You're not going to want to print this to paper. You're going to want to save this as a CSV file so that you can open it up in Excel and look at it. Print your financial statements from FRX, your management reporter, or your other reporting tool. You will be able to print these reports later as well. Those reporting tools do print back for historical years. If you're using a budget, you need to be careful about what budget's displaying on your reports. If you have made it this far without setting up the fiscal period for the new year, which is very unlikely, set up your new fiscal periods for the new year. And then you're going to close the fiscal year end using the year-end close window. You're going to verify the close by running a summary trial balance. And what you're looking for on that summary trial balance is that you have balances in the balance sheet, accounts only, that the bottom line total, and no balances on the P&L, and it nets to 0. If those two things are not true, you have a problem. And you're looking to restore back from that backup that you made so that you can fix whatever happened to cause those two things. It not net to 0, and if you still have balances in your P&L accounts, you're looking to restore to figure it out. Figure out how to fix it. Close the fiscal period for the financial series, and you're going to make a final backup. So let's look at what that smart list would look like. So what I've done process. What I've done is I've set up a smart list under financial, accounts, and I saved it as a favorite, and I called it posting review, posting type review. And what my search for this is really simple. I'm looking for an account that is less than 4,000, and it's less than 4,000 based on this chart of accounts. Yours might not be 4,000, but I know my P&L accounts start at 4,000 and are greater. So I'm looking for less than 4,000, but I'm looking for where the posting type is equal to profit and loss. The reason is I'm looking for the ones that are wrong, not the ones that are right. I don't want to have to scan through everything. And where the account type is equal to posting account. And if I execute this query, I get one account. This one's misclassified. From Smart List, I can double click on it, and I can go fix this posting type from profit and loss to balance sheet right here. I would then go change my search, and this one's going to pop a lot more. I'm going to say where it is greater than 3999, posting type is equal to balance sheet, and I'm going to run that and see if I have any accounts that display here, and I do, because I've set this up so that we have some examples. But that's all there is to it, and you can find these quickly, and if you find these before you run your year-end close, your year-end close should run well. The effects of this general ledger year-end close is it reconciles and summarizes the GL balances that have accumulated throughout the year. It transfers all open year summary information for each account to history. It transfers all account transactions to history. So for those of you that use the inquiry windows, there's the current year inquiries and there's the historical year inquiries. It's this process that moves those transactions over to history. It transfers open year profit and loss amounts to the retained earning accounts. And I say accounts because if you want to close by a division or by a segment of the chart, you can. It zeroes all profit and loss account balances after they've been closed to the retained earnings account. That's the reason for running that trial balance, to see if there's any balances on the trial balance. All P&L accounts should be zero. And it summarizes the balance sheet accounts, bringing the balance forward as the account's beginning balances to the new fiscal year. And what the system looks for is accounts with a posting type of balance sheet to create these beginning balance entries. Again, you will not have a balance sheet for your new year because it has not created those beginning balance entries until you run the year-end close process. The optional effects of running the GL year-end close is if the clear balance during year-end close option is unmarked in the unit account maintenance window, the balance of the unit account will be brought forward. This option is new. This option didn't exist in the older versions of GP. And depending upon the options taken on the year-end close window, the year-end process can optionally remove unused account segments, maintain or keep inactive accounts. And then you have the option within that for it to be all inactive accounts or only inactive accounts with budget amounts. The last module we're going to address is payroll. And the actual payroll year-end process is very simple. However, getting to this point is not simple, as each company can be very unique based on the use of the HR module, the third-party vendors that you use, the state that you're in, etc. Much of the year-end is the reconciliation, not the actual year-end process. And I'm only going to be focusing or going over the GP process itself. Your process may vary depending on those third-party products in your solution. So the first step is to complete all pay runs for the current year. So that should already be done. You're going to make a backup. You're going to install the year-end update. The installation of that year-end update can only be done by your Great Plains Systems administrator. And what it does is it updates any tax updates and updates the forms in their alignment. You're going to create the year-end file. You're going to make a backup. You're going to verify and print your tax forms. And then once that is done, then you're going to install the tax update for the next year. And that installation needs to be done before you run your first payroll for 2015. I am not a payroll expert. I'm the first one to admit this. But what I do know is the Affordable Care Act is part of the installation of the year-end tax update. And Great Plains will support the Affordable Care Act. But this update, this next step, tax update for the next year, is only available for GP 2013 or later versions. So if you're on an older version, it's not there. It requires the use of the HR module. The good news is, and if you're not using GP's HR module, the good news is it's free. It now comes with Payroll. And these, the requirements are not, as I said, supported on GP 10 or prior. So if you're one of our existing clients, you can contact us, although I don't know when your first payroll is, but you can contact us and we'll do all we can to support you through this, to manually get your tables updated and to help you out any way we can, and then to get you upgraded to the latest version. So to schedule payroll year-end close assistance, you can contact our customer care group, and there's their email address. And that's all I have. Chris, were there any questions? Does anybody have any questions? If you do, you can enter them in the chat, and we'll address them as best we can. Nothing? Okay. I can be reached. My email is at the front of this slide. And I'm going to turn this back over to Whitney.
Perfect. Thanks, Sue. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Here are a few of our upcoming events. So if you would like to register for them, you can find them on our website. Also, the PowerPoint that you did view today will also be available on our website, as well as Sue's entire presentation. Like she mentioned, if you have any additional questions or if you want to contact us for any support, we have Sue's email address as well as myself. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We will wait for a few more minutes if you have any other additional questions. We'll keep the chat open. Otherwise, you guys have a great day, and we will see you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.